So I did an open day and I signed up, I think it was 58 cases in a weekend, and I had only completed less than 10 cases before then.
Wow.
If you haven't got to it, you're probably not stretching yourself enough, you're probably not growing.
I think what happened is that I felt that the actual part that I brought to it was the ability to help the team grow with me. And I think that's something that we talk about a lot, that this journey isn't just ours, there's so many people behind the scenes.
Welcome to the show, guys. It's so good to have you on.
Thank you for having us.
So whenever we do an episode, we always like to start with a kind of a rapid fire round, just as like a warm up. So we want like your gut instinct responses. Now, I think you saw the brief already, so I shook it up a little bit because I don't want prepared responses. I want instinct responses. So Nikhil, a lifetime full of full arch implants only, or a lifetime full of general dentistry, basically everything else except implants?
Except implants? No, for me it would. That's a tough one. This is quick fire.
Yeah. Well,
I'll go full arch.
Okay, fine. So,
yeah. To be honest, I love general dentistry.
Yeah.
Obviously, my niche is implant dentistry, and that's what my passion is. However, I am not I do other treatments. I really enjoy crown and bridge work, etc. So that's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, because I love implants. I can't give up implants, but at the same time, I love meeting people from different backgrounds and things like that. With implants, you tend, you have a certain age group, generally speaking, for full arches.
Sure, of course, yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so full arches, if you had to.
Long-winded.
If you had to. Well, I
That was a difficult question.
Yeah, I know.
I thought you were going to say I could do just full arches or full arches and general. I would have said full arches and general. But
Yeah, no, it's meant to put people on the spot. Well,
Sorry.
you might have guessed what's coming for you. So a lifetime of Invisalign or clear aligners only, or a lifetime of everything except clear aligner therapy?
Clear aligners.
Yeah?
Yeah.
much
Okay,
easier.
fine.
Yeah, very
So
easy.
actually,
That's what he does now.
That's what I do now,
fair enough. But I guess the cosmetic dentistry is wider than just that. But okay, I mean, you're both obviously very committed to your craft, which is good. So I kind of read the room well. So next question: scaling through acquisitions or staying boutique?
I'll go first. I think scaling is our vision. However, the vision is scaling, but maintaining that boutique feel in each of our practices.
Okay.
So giving the quality and care for the patients. So it's not about speed for us.
Yeah.
Whether we have 1 practice, 2 practices, 5, 10, we want to have consistency.
Okay,
and give
interesting.
patients that feel.
And would you? I mean, you're obviously, you've achieved a lot this year, which we'll go into through acquisitions primarily. Do you ever see yourself kind of starting a squat practice as part of that journey, or do you always see yourself as having an acquisition-led journey, basically?
I think for now, an acquisition-led journey makes sense for us. Just because you have a lot of kind of systems and structures in place for us to then grow from. Nikhil and I try and go and see every practice and would like to clone ourselves. And maybe that's something we may be able to do in the future.
With AI, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, true.
But nothing imminent. So what we'd like to do is, like Nikhil said, is that we want to keep it boutique. And by having an existing practice, what it allows us to do is meet a new team, learn from them as well. Because for us, we're so young in our journey as well that we don't feel like we know everything. So we still go into a practice and go in and get some feedback from the current managers or the current associates, and we learn every day. So that way we'll continue to grow and learn at the same time.
Good, really good. Running a business or practicing dentistry?
Running a business.
Yeah,
I think running a business as well.
Yeah.
Okay,
I had
interesting.
to do one or the other.
Yeah, okay. So if you had to hang up your loops, put that away. Yeah, if you had to choose, that would be the path you would
Quick
choose.
fire, yes.
Okay. Good. You're both fairly committed to content. Obviously, we've spoken about your content production and some of the work you've done, and it's obviously evident on your socials as well. You regularly jump on video to kind of, engage in educational video or patient storytelling, which is great always. As it comes to that, going viral on socials or quietly growing a loyal client or patient base in the background?
I think I can say the latter. So like quietly growing.
Yeah.
If like the viral part of it comes secondary to that,
Yeah.
then I don't think either of us will be upset about that.
Yeah,
We'll
fair enough,
embrace
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and we will help more patients and help more of our mentees through it.
Yeah.
And educate patients. But the core focus for us is like steady growth and having that organic following and building trust.
Yeah. Okay. And the last one, you guys are both into obviously mentoring, giving back, and we'll talk a little bit about the program a little bit later, but unlimited time, right? To grow, mentor, give back, or unlimited funds to acquire, expand?
For me, time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's the most valuable commodity that we have.
You can't do anything with the funds if you don't have the time. Right?
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
It has to be time. Yeah.
Good. Okay, cool. Well, that's some great answers. Now, I guess very briefly for those of you who don't know you guys, because as we said earlier offline, you are committed to social media, but you don't, you're not super out there. You don't always share everything. So for those of you who don't know you, maybe just give us a little bit of background of who you are and I guess your journey so far and how you've ended up here, really, and with two practices that you co-own.
Yeah. I'll go first. So I'm Kishan.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the Midlands. I studied in Leeds, and then I moved to the big city of London, where I did my VT. And to be fair, how I've ended up here is actually by having good mentors and a lot of luck. I didn't really love dentistry when I graduated from Leeds. I had really good mentors during my VT who pushed me to do more private work. I wasn't engaging to begin with, but they spent a lot of time with me, used to kind of take me out for dinner because I was living by myself, and really kind of helped me grow as a person and as a clinician. And unfortunately, there was no space to stay at that practice following my VT. So I then moved to two other practices, both very different.
Yeah.
One of my principals at the time is actually my business partner of my first practice.
Amit, I guess.
Amit,
right? Yeah.
And I got that job through my uncle because they were friends and we used to play football together. So Amit was actually secretly interviewing me throughout us playing. So I was asking Amit for help for my CV, and I was like, Amit, can we go through a few things? And we'd sit in his car after football, and he'd talk to me about dentistry and his visions. And it happened that we both aligned, and he offered me a job. And he then supported me. He got me on the Invisalign course. So he actually sorted that out for me.
Great.
And then gave me a platform where he didn't give me targets, but actually gave me support in terms of staff, in terms of timing of appointments, and just was there at my beck and call in a sense to be able to support me. And for me, that was so invaluable at that time. My other practice I was working at was in Stevenage, which is in the location I bought the practice. And my mentor there, Amir, he was very different. He was very good at man management, and like all the staff love him. Like I've never seen a staff leave his practice. We always used to shut the practice and go out for lunch and go out all the time. And whenever we had Christmas parties, we'd stay in a different location, and it'd make things really exciting. So I learned very different qualities within both of my principals at the time, which then helped me kind of love dentistry, and not just the clinical side of things, but also just the environment that they created and the culture they created. And through that, Invisalign, it just grew through COVID, and I'm sure we'll probably touch on that later. But because of that, my ethos and the culture that we want to create and that I want to create has been formed by those two people.
Yeah, it's a great story. Really good. Yeah.
So I'm Nikhil. I graduated in Birmingham in 2012, and soon after that, I did VT back in London, where my family live. And similar to Kish, my first mentor was my VT trainer.
Okay.
So it was quite a unique experience. I was doing two VT roles, basically. One was in Watford and one was in Bedford. So I got to kind of understand two different practices and meet two different teams, which was quite cool. I think it was the only VT place in the country that has that. But Minesh helped me a lot, and he sort of guided me to do max vax and do an SHO role in oral surgery, which I really loved. And that then helped me sort of with my career progression into implants. So after doing VT, I did the SHO role. And then I now predominantly do implant and cosmetic work through that. And but like we said earlier, I do love general dentistry. I love treating like a wide variety of patients, from kids to elderly. But now Kish and I, we co-own Berkhamsted Dental Practice.
Yep.
And recently, Optima Dental, which is going through a transition where we're rebranding it to Castle Street Dental.
Yep. Yeah.
And
plug away. That's fine.
Well,
right? Please do.
So essentially now it's my week is some clinical. Practice ownership, and then also I mentor implant students. So those who are a little bit earlier on in their implant journey, and that's something that I love doing because it's giving back. And similar to Kish, the mentors that I've had since qualifying have helped me to become the person I am now, the clinician I am now. And so I love giving back and helping those who need that guidance, helping planning cases and with the surgery. And every day is a school day, so it also keeps me on my toes because I have to keep learning and making sure I'm familiar with the latest techniques and things like that. So that part of it, even though it's not clinical per se, I love.
You enjoy?
Yeah. Doing that.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, the common thread, I guess, between your two stories is really having good mentorship and leadership from early on in your journey. And in your case, it sort of helped you 180 in your career, almost, where you weren't perhaps so committed to
100%.
dentistry or maybe not passionate about it. And leadership has come up a few times in the last couple of weeks on the show, where actually it's kind of the thing that can move the needle most in a practice. But also for, people who are earlier on in their career, having a good leader is just so important, because I think it can make or break someone's career. Good leadership or the absence of that. So that's really, really interesting.
But like you said, sorry to interrupt. You said, a lot of it is luck to an extent, right? So my VT trainer, he helped me so much, but I had good friends who were better clinicians or ranked higher, because it's all a ranking process in the interviews, but they just didn't have the same
mentorship and guidance.
And then even after the VT training, it was luck that I found a good implant mentor, and that was actually family. So it helped, because otherwise it can be quite lonely and it can be very difficult to embark on things like Invisalign and implant dentistry. So that's why we're so passionate about giving younger associates some guidance. And if we can't answer the questions, we've built a network, and we're still building a network where we can point them in the right direction or to the right person to help them.
So practice ownership is I think new for you this year.
Yes.
Kish, you've owned Hygiene obviously since 2023, I think.
Yes.
And maybe I think you have a part share in Aylesbury as well.
I don't.
You don't?
I don't have a part share.
Okay,
I am just a loyal associate.
Right. Okay. Fine. Well, I feel like you're part of the fixtures and fittings. So that's
exactly.
Good. So you've been a principal a couple of years longer, but how is what you guys have achieved this year is quite ambitious. It's bold. Practice acquisitions take time, so that process was obviously running in parallel for some time. So I imagine the back end of last year and the beginning of this year was very busy for you guys.
Yes.
How has that journey been in terms of the reality of actually now owning 3 and 2 practices, and also the dynamic of doing that together?
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey actually. Like every day we've been learning something new, and having both practices, as you said, overlap to an extent, has been both stressful, but also we've accepted the challenge, and we've had a clear vision from the get-go. And so we knew that both practices, although they're very different, we knew how we were going to change them and better them to an extent, But it's actually quite a funny story. We found Berkhamsted through a network, basically, once a mutual friend of ours and a bit of a mentor put us in touch with the agent, and that was all going well. And then I actually had seen the second practice a few years previously, because I was looking for a practice alone. And unfortunately, the practice principal of that practice, he went through some trauma, and unfortunately his father passed away and things like that. So he ended up retracting the sale and taking it off the market. And then my wife was actually in hospital expecting our second baby, and he messaged me to say, basically, come and see the practice. It's back on the market, and if you want it, it's yours. So I call Kish to say,
Let's
Kish,
do this.
you need to. I'm in hospital. Literally, I'm going. Like Bab's about to
at the labour ward.
Just can you go and meet?
The
principal.
And this was the same week I was getting married.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I went that same week when I should have been practicing my speech or my dance moves, whichever way you look at it.
How did that go down with the missus? Like, sorry, hon, I'm just.
My wife is a dentist as well, and she was so supportive. She has been throughout this whole journey, and likewise with Nikhil's wife, we feel like we've got another family. And I know some people say partnerships can be good and bad things, but for us, like, we've all kind of supported each other, and for me, it's been a great experience so far.
But just that you went to go and see the practice while I was in the hospital just showed that was the start of like the partnership. There was obviously every day we were talking, but that was great because he sealed the deal. Even though I had met the principal previously, he called me and said, if we want it, it's basically. But
you were already working on the other acquisition in parallel.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So you had already committed to going into business together. Okay, fine.
That was quite. Due diligence had been done. Yeah. We had paid deposits. That was all going ahead. Yeah. So we had to make a move, and I think the beauty of a partnership is that we knew if we supported each other, we both wanted that second practice because actually it was more of the model that we were looking for.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, they're both in great areas, I think, fairly affluent areas, which is really, really good. Well, we'll get onto that. But that's crazy story. So how did you guys then meet? So before you then committed to sort of going into, and by the way, it's funny because you mentioned you sort of being in the labor ward, you basically being on a flight to Tuscany.
Yeah.
The plane turned around.
Yeah. Somehow it always happens in those moments because we've had guests on where they were like, sort of they just exchanged on a house and then they're buying a practice and the partner is 8 months pregnant or whatever, and then COVID swept in. So it all always seems to sort of come at once. But how did you guys actually meet in the first place and decide to go into business together?
So we actually met on a stag.
All right. Okay. Well.
Great network.
Yeah. So Nikhil's cousin is a good friend of mine. And we met on the stag and we started talking, and to be fair, we'd never met each other or known of each other. And we started saying, like, I was saying that I do a lot of Invisalign. Nikhil was saying I do a lot of implants, and we were like joking around, being like, we could be the dream team. And then it kind of, we kept in touch throughout the wedding events, and we swapped numbers, and every so often we'd meet up or we'd drop a phone call and message and how are things and so on and so forth. And Nikhil was trying to buy practice by himself at that time. And it can be quite difficult, right? For me, my first transaction was made a lot easier because I had someone who had done it six times before me. And Nikhil's story is very different, that it wasn't quite as linear in his journey. And so we kind of got to a point where Amit and I realized that actually there comes a point where we're at different stages of our career. Yeah. And I'm still ambitious and wanted to grow. And Nikhil and I think the main thing is actually our values aligned. And for us, that was really important of what we wanted and our end goal. And I think we sat down quite a lot. We used to go out for dinners a lot and really just hash out who we were as people rather than what our business vision was. Yeah. And because we felt we aligned by that, we felt we could go into business, and that's where it all started.
I mean, I think that's a really good sort of point to call out, because I think, the older I get, and I think most people share this, the more you realize it's about value alignment. Yeah. And also I think there's critical milestones in life where, for example, having kids, that is an inflection point where you're now projecting your values onto your children or what you want their values to be. And if that doesn't align with your friends who you've been friends with for years, when they have kids, and then the values can start to clash. So that's a really good way of going about it, actually. And so, okay, so you weren't like, oh damn, there's another dentist coming on the stag do. I'm trying to escape dentistry for a weekend and just get pissed.
No, it was great. Yeah. We like got talking, and then social media helps a lot because we start seeing each other's work and start talking through that. It was great.
Amazing. So I think within a few short years of qualifying, obviously your mentor helped you get on the Invisalign course. You basically, it was a bit of a hockey stick growth, parabolic growth curve where you hit apex, very, very quickly, which is actually candidly a milestone that most Invisalign providers never reach, because there's actually not that many apex providers, certainly not in the UK. Yeah. How did you achieve that? Because, how did that happen? Like, it doesn't just happen by luck. So what?
I was going to say luck. I think a couple of things. I think timing.
Yeah.
I think there was a boom after COVID.
Yep.
And I have a lot of dentist friends who were looking into marketing, looking into growing as clinicians and actually being early adopters of social media, creating our own Instagram. My first Instagram post is actually me holding a curtain or a bed sheet or something behind me and getting a photo just for my Instagram. All these little things that we try and do to get ourselves kind of seen out there. And we took risks. So I spoke to Amit and I was like, Amit, I fully believe in this. I want to try and plug an open day. I want to try and grow as a clinician. And I think COVID gave us a lot of time to reflect on our careers.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And
I felt that I had more to give. And so for me, that was the luck part, the timing. And then the imposter syndrome starts. So I did an open day and I signed up. I think it was 58 cases in a weekend.
That's wild.
Wow.
That is wild.
And I had only completed less than 10 cases before then.
Wow.
Jumped in the deep end.
And so I was, and we didn't have a scanner then. So I did all 58 of those
impressions
with impressions.
That's wild.
And I used to work on a Saturday and Sunday to do the impressions because I was still a mixed NHS private dentist.
And your diary must have been slammed after that, like for aligner fits and attachments and reviews and stuff.
Exactly. And actually, I think it's a bit of an underdog story. We're a small practice in Aylesbury, nowhere near London. I joined as an NHS dentist, tried to grow my private. Then all of a sudden, even the reception team kind of had never done anything like this. They'd been at the practice for years, never touched social media, still doing paper notes and stuff. Like it was a little bit more old school. But I think what happened is that where I felt that the actual part that I brought to it was the ability to help the team grow with me. And I think that's something that we talk about a lot, that this journey isn't just ours. There's so many people behind the scenes. Like we've already mentioned our wives, but our parents, our friends, especially some of our dentist friends who like share so much information with us, our colleagues, our nurses, our reception. Like I can name so many different people who've supported us on our journey. And I think for us, we made them feel valued and it was a team effort. So they would go out of their way, work through lunch, do things that they wouldn't normally do to help us on that journey. And I think for us, that's a big thing that I think leads to our success is that we care about the people around us. And I think that's, and it's unconditional in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I think the most we've ever heard of anyone doing in like a weekend is about 45 cases.
Yeah. So I think this was
Guinness Book of Records.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there must have been an alarm bell ringing at the Align head office somewhere. Like, what's going on here? All these clean checks are coming through. There must be an error.
Yeah, they rolled out the red carpet, I'm sure.
That's crazy. What for you guys has been kind of the turning points in your careers? I mean, you've talked a lot about mentorship. How did your experience in Max Fax in hospital as an SHO kind of shape how you approach dentistry outside of hospital today and how you go about sort of running a practice, even though it's fairly early days?
Yeah, I mean, so the Max Fax journey was great for me because I was a little bit stuck of what I wanted to do. Part of me wanted to, after VT, start doing private dentistry and start earning good money and things like that and becoming an associate and climbing the ladder. But then, like I said, my VT trainer at the time, my mentor, said, trust me, like you enjoy oral surgery, you're good at it, just do this 1 year in Max Fax.
Get the reps in.
It was great because, the experience, clinical experience you get is amazing, but also working under pressure and again, meeting patients from all different medical histories, different socioeconomic backgrounds and things like that is just amazing. But I think the main thing for me was working under pressure and massive imposter syndrome in my first week in Max Fax.
Of course. I bet.
I had someone who came in with fallen off a ladder from basically off his roof, and I get the bleep, and I'm just a dentist, right? I was like, hold on, what's going on here? Who do I call? What do I do? But that learning experience was fantastic, and I still do recommend younger dentists doing that if they want to do implants. I do recommend doing a year in MaxFax, which we're finding it, some of the younger associates, younger dentists,
We'll go straight to
they want
implants.
to, which I understand,
Yeah.
but I think that 1 year taught me so much and shaped me so much. So, and then I guess another pivotal moment in my career was actually non-dental. So we talked about having mentors in dentistry, right? Or in business. But another reason why Kish and I, we had a mutual interest was the fitness journeys we've both been on. And so we, about 5 or 6 years ago, I did a fitness transformation. And the reason I did it was actually because a cousin of mine who I'm close to, I think around 2017, he works in finance, stressful job. And he basically, for insurance purposes, he had to have like a full medical check. And he was told that he was pre-diabetic, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. They were about to put him on 10 different meds.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And it just shocked him. And he ended up, through a friend, finding R&T, which is a company that Kish and I both used in our fitness journey. And I embarked on that. And that was a real pivotal point, not from a clinical point of view, but actually just as a human, but my relationships, diet, nutrition, fitness, relationships even at work and focus were all amplified, were so much better because of that journey. So I'm sure Kish will agree.
Yes,
that side of things.
Yeah, 100%.
Made a big difference.
It's actually what we talk about a lot as a turning point in our journey, because we all have imposter syndrome, right? We all live with these insecurities of some sort, right? That's human nature. But for us, for me personally, it was the first time in my life that I did something that took discipline and willpower that no one else wanted me to do, or no one else believed in me. Like, when you're growing up, like, your parents support you in your academic life. They take you to your, like, for me, it was chess club and taekwondo and the rest of it. Then you're at university, you're in a system and you're following a pathway. And you're like, okay, what's the next hurdle? What's the next step? And this was something that I'd chosen to do, which was sacrificing short-term happiness, like drinking and partying and going out for dinner and stuff, and actually pushing ourselves to our limit. So doing like a photo shoot, but at that point I dropped down to like maybe 1100 calories a day. So have no energy. Me and my wife like couldn't go out to dates and go for dinner. So it wasn't just me, but it was kind of both of us sacrificing. And then my parents were worried about kind of how extreme it was all going. But I think in that moment, you go to a place which is really hard to describe with words, but you're kind of in such a tunnel vision. Like I'm not saying I'm an athlete, or far from it, but you feel like probably how an athlete does, like before competitions, like you're so laser focused in something, and actually you can't turn that off you can't do that in your personal life and not do that in your professional life. And
because I think when you develop that kind of accountability and discipline in one domain in your life, that becomes a skill that you practice, you harness, and then you can sort of export that and project that into other parts of your life.
100%.
But I can imagine, I mean, my wife is Indian, so I can imagine that sort of trying to convince the parents to go down to 1100 calories. Indian parents is
the
that's
number
tough.
of people that came up
Yeah,
to me,
grandparents as well.
asking if I was like unwell or something.
Every
It was
time,
so
yeah.
hard. Like in our tradition, fat you are, the healthy you are.
Yeah, fair enough.
So but once you explain it to them and they understand, it's all good. Because now we tell our parents to act the same way, right? Like fix up their diet and get their steps in and things like that. It's all about habit forming, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I say that I smashed a croissant before you guys came in, but I'm aware of what I need to do, but I'm not yet consistent. But it's about that consistency of action, I guess, and then discipline and habits form over time. You talked about imposter syndrome as well in your MaxFax role, and you along your journey, having just converted 58 Invisalign cases, having done only 10 cases. So I guess, I mean, we all get imposter syndrome at different points in our lives and journey. Has that showed up for you again this year, having now acquired 2 practices and, you being kind of thrown in the deep end of practice ownership or multi-practice ownership? Have you sort of again faced that imposter syndrome where you're like, okay, you're sort of looking almost like, get like an outer body experience looking at yourself in the trenches in a reception thinking, well, what am I doing here?
I think at early stages, you do feel like that, but imposter syndrome used to make me feel anxious and have negative thoughts, right? But I now kind of embrace it. I'm like, there's going to be stages in life where you get imposter syndrome, but you look at it as, if you haven't got it, you're probably not stretching yourself enough. You're probably not growing. So I don't know about Kish, but I definitely felt that at the early stages of the practice ownership. There were moments where the staff members would come up to me and I honestly didn't have the answer for them. And you think to yourself, should I be here? Am I in the right place? But again, the beauty about partnership is that we can go through that together and we can actually solve all these issues together. If I don't know it, we can discuss it. We can come up with answers. So,
I guess that's the power of having, a business partner, that you're not sort of in this alone. And because I know a lot of principals can feel really isolated and siloed. And I know dentistry can be quite isolating if you're not sort of leaning on colleagues. And I guess having a business partner is a great way to kind of work together and solve problems together. In your program, which we'll touch on, which is the Dental Associate Developmental Program, correct? The DADP program. Development Program, sorry, the DADP. You sort of touch on the theme around, okay, as a young dentist, you're being sold this dream of private jets, champagne. Well, maybe not quite, but a glossy picture of doing really high-end cosmetic dentistry, huge smile makeovers, and so forth. Do you think they're sort of being sold a fake dream, a fake reality? And how big of a role does that and social media play in terms of the mindset of younger dentists?
It's massive. And I guess I want to kind of go back to kind of the journey someone has to take to get into dental school, to get through dental school, to then get VT, and then kind of it gives you a bit of background about what pressures that people have been under and they're such high achievers and why social media then makes things worse. So like a lot of people getting into dental school have started working towards that from a very, very young age, whether that's because dentistry, you have to get a CV together, interviews together. So you're first of all getting your kind of Duke of Edinburgh stuff, your young enterprise, you're playing sports for county England, playing a piano at grade 8. There's so many other extracurricular stuff you're doing. On top of that, you've got your exams and your GCSEs, and you need to get amazing grades to then even be looked at. Then you've got your A-levels and your prediction. Then you've got to write an application about why dentistry. Then you've got these interview process, and you're in a system. You're in an educational system, but the people who end up getting into dentistry are high achievers. Yeah. And they've been at the top of their field in music, sport, whatever it is. Same with academics. Then they go to university and they have a very different schedule to other degrees. So you and your dentist are working together, and once again, you're in a system. You're clinically working. You're book smart. You're revising. You're getting these top grades, and some of these people are coming out top of their class. Yep. Not me, but my colleagues will be. Then they get. Then we have to do a national interview where you get ranked from 1 to 1,000 or whatever it is.
Which in itself is brutal.
Is brutal. Yeah. And then depending on your ranking, you get positioned into a certain part of the country. Yeah. Right. So first of all, some people might be moving away from their first choice, and some people fortunately get their first choice. But once again, it's a brutal process. You're then in this position where you've potentially come top in your year at uni. You're working really hard. You've then got this image of like other people in your year doing similar things. But then, like I said, that people's journey changes at that point because you're no longer in a system, you're in the working world. Yeah. So for us, we talked about our luck in terms of our mentors and stuff. Some people who may not have had that, may be academically smarter than us, maybe harder working than us, but just unfortunately just haven't had that opportunity. So then we've then gone and progressed in a certain way. Yeah. And there's people in my year who've done more than what I've done. Yeah. But ultimately, there'll be people more and people less. And that's just life. But when you're seeing other people do things, I think it's really important to sit back and realize how far you've come and kind of recognize what your ultimate goals are. And for us, we talk a lot about happiness. And actually, comparison is the thief of joy. Yes, absolutely. But it's really difficult to do. And we're talking about just dentistry, but I think this is like an issue across our generation and the generation below us. So that's where we're at. Like I can see it being a big issue, and yet,
and it's getting worse.
Yeah, so people do want, and like Nikhil said, that most people come out and they want to get straight to they want to get Invisalign straight away. They want to do implants. And they're hardworking and they want to do that, but you can get despondent if it doesn't quite work for you, and then the resilience part comes in, and what people are prepared to do to sacrifice, and then some people feel like they are already doing that, but it still doesn't quite work out, and that's where the problem lies, and that's where we feel that people who've been through that journey, and Nikhil and I talk about how our journeys are different, while actually mine's been a lot more luck-led in terms of having Amit buy my first practice. I'm sure if you speak to Nikhil about how many practices he's viewed, squat practices he's tried to set up, had so many, like 7-8 years or something of looking
just
of
obstacles
failures.
and hurdles.
I don't like to use the word failure, but
maybe it's a good thing.
And from that you can see, just from us being business partners, we've taken very different trajectories to get here.
But also going back to your question about, the whole social media and younger associates, the trouble is the dentists who have the most following, they are highly skilled. And I think that the younger associates don't see the sacrifices they've made, the network they've made, the challenges they've faced, how much they've invested in themselves, like monetary time sacrifices and all that sort of stuff. That's not seen on Instagram as much, or any platform. It's just the work. And so I think their mindset is just, we need to get to that place, and they don't see the journey,
the graph that it takes.
The graph that it takes. And like Kish said, the failures that it takes to get to that stage. So I think that's the one downside to social media, although there's so many benefits. A lot of these clinicians are really good educators. If you're using the right sources and you're using the right mentors on social media, it's amazing. I wish kind of that played more of a part in my implant journey, because when I was doing my diploma, there was no one educating on social media. So if you use it for the benefits, it's amazing.
No, sure. But, which is why it's really nice that you're sharing your story, actually, because you coined the term that your Invisalign journey was kind of an underdog story. And it's really nice to have you guys here. You don't have 50,000 combined followers on social media, which is great, because it means your story is a lot more relatable to 95% of associates who are thinking about potentially going into practice ownership and seeing that journey. And you guys are sort of quietly killing it in the background on this journey. And I think for every, Instagram famous dentist, there are, a multitude of dentists like you who are just consistent, focused, have a vision, and work hard, get good results, treat their team well. So you're exceptionally humble, and it's amazing to share your story, including the highs and lows, because very few people are going to post, oh shit, I have a cash flow issue this month, because, whatever, it's like, no one does that. In the same way that dentists don't post bad cases, in the same way that marketing agencies don't post bad case studies. Like, it's just not how the world works. But it can be a very skewed view of the world if that's all you're seeing and you're not having 100%. Real human conversations with people.
Exactly.
It's funny you say that. We actually talk a lot about what we define as super associate on our course, and how we frame it. And we ask actually the delegates and our colleagues on the course, like, what they view as what a super associate is. And most people, in fact, pretty much everyone says, oh, it's the highest. These are the kind of highest earner, most following, most useful, highest ticket items, most complex case, the kind of the dream associate. But actually, I think I kind of question that logic and be like, actually, let's say you're a VT in a practice. As a principal, we don't have a VT, but let's say if you did, and you're doing the NHS work and you're supporting, how can we not define that as a super associate who is seeing maybe a different socio-economic demographic and actually supporting the community and actually getting people out of pain, also seeing patients that the high-end cosmetic dentist doesn't see, which then allows them to see those people. So why are we not treating them like a super associate? Why are we not treating the person who enjoys root canals? Or that each person has their own journey and their own value. And I think a super associate can only be defined by the individual themselves and introspect, and no one else can define you as an individual. And that's something that we tell them, and actually look at you within, we are here to support you as part of our DADP community or wider community. They don't have to be a part of us, but that's the kind of notion we want to get across to everyone, that it's about looking within and being happy within. Like for me, if I've got an associate who might be working 3 days a week doing and actually may not be the highest grosser, but actually they're happy, they're really respectful to the nurses, really respectful to the receptionists, they're actually going on holiday and spending time with their family, looking after their parent. For me, I'm like, you've created a dream life. And for me, that's as principals, that's more rewarding to see someone. If we can create a team of happiness, for me, that's more rewarding than a practice that turns over millions. Because ultimately, money doesn't buy happiness. So there's a bigger picture here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have a sea of CVs flying in now once this airs, because I think that's a really refreshing attitude to, especially now that you are principals, co-principals, and by virtue of you owning multiple dental practices, they will end up being primarily associate led, I guess, because you've only got so many hours in a day. So that's a really interesting take, that it's not all about optimizing surgery time, your hourly, how much you gross hourly and so forth.
I mean, when we first started talking about buying a practice together, and Kish was saying we realized that our morals align, right? We always said to ourselves, the money will come if we just do ethical dentistry and we have a really good team. And so I think we pride ourselves that we don't have targets, we don't have sliding scales. And we're not saying that practices shouldn't have that, but we genuinely feel that by treating the team like family and making sure that they're ethical, yes, there will be the super associates who you want to keep, meaning the ones who are clinically have invested in themselves and can do implants, can do the high ticket items, but it should come organically rather than putting the team under pressure and putting the associates under pressure. So I think that's something that we really do care about.
That's great approach, great attitude. Because one of my questions was going to be around, okay, what is a super associate and how do you define that? And one of them was going to be, okay, let's talk numbers, grossing, what do you want to see, etc. So it's actually really, really refreshing take, because everyone only ever seems to talk about what a super associate means for the practice and not what it means for the associate. And also they tend to talk about super associates or top associates only in objective terms. So how much they gross, how many cases, conversion rates, etc. But actually, if you create an environment where your staff are happy, your team are happy, your associates are happy, as you say, you create a culture of collaboration and where people are respectful and they work well together, you're going to keep your team longer.
Exactly.
They're going to be happier. They're going to project that onto patients. Patients will stay longer. They will trust you more, and they will end up spending more, and they'll end up referring more. So over time, you end up unlocking, as you say, that profit will come anyway.
And I guess for us, it's like, what do we want our legacy to be?
Yeah, sure.
Right. We talk about like, okay, we could have 3 practices, we can have 10, we can have 20, we can have 50, but they're just numbers, right? We talk about growth. Sure. It's just a number, like what in your bank account is just a number, right? If you can, like, ultimately, it, like we said, there's happiness and there's people you want to spend it with, you want to share the journey with someone. Like you kind of see all these Instagram reels. I'm going to go back to Instagram here. That actually is the journey that's more important than the end result.
I mean, you've talked also both a little bit about balance and the topic of family has come up a lot in terms of, how much you value their support and input, but also in terms of spending time with them and having healthy relationships with friends, family, colleagues, also your own health. The reality is, you've got 2 kids, I think, right?
Yes, yeah.
You're reasonably newly married, I think. You have multiple practices, you're still an associate as well in places. So how do you juggle it all? And how do you make time for things like, that you don't want to compromise on, like going to the gym, eating healthy,
This is where
family.
We align massively.
Yeah.
Because we talk about the non-negotiables. And again, I'll go back to our fitness journey. It was all to do with that. There are non-negotiables in our diet. There are non-negotiables in our fitness regime, like getting steps in at, I remember walking out at like 11 p.m. just to get the steps in the pouring rain, listening to podcasts, which is great. But that now it's a habit that's formed. So we've got non-negotiables. And for me, and I think we both respect each other's time as well. If I need to spend time with the family, sometimes Kish will call me. I say, I need to put the kids to bed. And he's like, yeah, go. Like, do it. Definitely do it. Sort of thing. We appreciate that. So again, the partnership helps massively, because when you talk about juggling time, yeah, it's difficult, it's tough, but if you have those non-negotiables, you have to make sure that you
Make space for them.
Make space for them, yeah, exactly. So whether that's going to the gym or spending time with family. What I've learned more recently is that with the kids and with my wife and with family at home, if I'm with them, I'm like fully in. You know, I try and keep my phone away. That's why I don't have like a smartwatch, because I've learned the hard way where I've had regrets, you know. So that's something personally that I've really tried to focus on. And when I'm not there, you know, if I'm in the office or if we're at work, I'm focused on that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I do it.
I think what we say to everyone in our team, and this is actually another part of our course, so we're giving a lot of the material away, but we write these non-negotiables down.
Yeah.
So we'll say, like, for me, it'll be like, I like watching Netflix. I like listening to podcasts. I like walking, training, playing football, like
Spending
running.
time with the wife.
Yeah. Like, we've got so many different things. And what we do is our actual schedule of our day.
Yeah.
For me as well, fitness is important. So I've got Whoop. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to sleep 8 hours a day. So we actually work backwards.
Okay.
So I would be like, okay, I have a personal trainer at like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. That means I have to get to bed at this time. And if I want to walk, I do it at this time. And then what we do is we work out the rest of the time. So after I've got my non-negotiables, Netflix, eating good food, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So we actually put all the fun stuff in first. And then we go, actually, we've only got 6 hours of the day to work. So for me, I don't start work until like 10 o'clock. And then I finish earlier. So I'm like, I have to do double the amount of work in that time. So therefore, I either need more staff to help me do it, or
okay, interesting.
Like, so what we do is we work backwards,
Yeah.
and then because we have all these other things, so when people are like, oh, don't you find practice life stressful, or is it a lot, or does it get too much? And we're like, actually, we have so many other things that we're like focusing on. Like we have goals in terms of like weights, and we have goals in terms of running, and we have want to be footballers in our 40s and all sorts. We have other ambition.
Yep.
I like traveling, so I spent like 4 or 5 months of the year traveling.
Oh, wow.
Last year.
Wow, that's great.
So I have a great business partner, Nikhil, who allows me to do
that. I have to be in the practice.
And so we have these things where we don't want to miss out on these memories and this time, but then we know that when we've got gaps and stuff, we have to be efficient, and we have to work, and we have to support and kind of step up when we need to.
Yeah, no, that's this analogy came to mind, which is kind of like an old analogy, I think, but it's like when you have a bottle and you have water and rocks, big rocks and pebbles and sand.
Yeah.
And I think the big rocks are like the important things in life that, you know, are non-negotiables basically.
Yeah.
And if you put the sand in first and the water
Yeah.
and the pebbles, there's no space
Exactly.
for the rocks because it fills up. But if you do it the other way around, then everything fits in the bottle.
Exactly.
Which is a great analogy, but real life is not always as linear, right? So, you know, I have kids, so, you know, kids are incredible, but they also put a huge strain on your time and your bandwidth. So how do you kind of juggle that if, for example, you know, your little one has a fever or whatever, and it just wipes out your evening and there's non-negotiables in there? How do you manage that?
No, it's a good question. I mean, for me, family comes first. It's like top of the non-negotiables, right? So if a kid has a fever or they've got their Christmas play or anything like that you don't want to miss,
You're there.
Yeah, I'm there. That's like the top priority for me. But that means that I may have to sacrifice elsewhere. So rather than going for a run, I might still get some steps in the gym and do work on my phone, because that for me is time efficiency and being there for the family and things like that. Don't get me wrong, it's been, I don't want to make it out that it's easy to do, because buying these 2 practices in a year has been difficult, especially having a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old son who just needs lots of attention and I want to be with, and then the 1-year-old, you can imagine, sleepless nights at the beginning and things like that. But I think it's it hasn't been rosy or like that, but it's so important to have priorities and just make time and be as efficient as possible and have a great team. I mean, Kish is a great business partner, but in addition to that, like he said earlier, my wife has been so supportive. And then you've got the practice, the staff at the practice. Building that team has been crucial for us, right? So we can rely on them and give them responsibilities to help us out.
No, great. I feel there's some really good life lessons in there for people who are watching and will continue to watch this over time. In terms of, you're growing your portfolio. What's the vision for the group, if I may call it that? What is a group? What's the vision for the group, and how do you sort of, obviously scaling is exciting. How do you maintain a kind of a patient-centric and personalized community approach as you grow?
I think for us, learning how to recruit people who align with us is the first thing. I think we're in the process right now where we're learning a lot about ourselves, learning about how to scale a practice, learning about systems, learning about which marketing company to use, which dental software to, basically everything. And we want to get to know everyone in the industry, because this is still, even though I've had Heidi, we're still relatively young in our business journey. So what we want to do is get the systems in place, but also the right team. And also, how do we attract the right team? How do we attract the right associates? How do we attract the right staff? Like, we talk about our vision but how do we portray that message to the wider world? And we're still learning that. And I think what we hope is that we want to scale in a different way, where it's not going to be target driven. It's not going to be number of practices that we want. It's going to be actually based on the organic growth that we are driven, and we do want to grow. So we're not going to stay where we are, but we want to do it in a way that we're supporting not only the kind of dental community, but also the patients, and doing it the right way. So whether we end up with 5 or 10, it doesn't matter. And the end financial product matters, but it's not the be all and end all. For us, the legacy will be the more areas we can infiltrate our philosophy, the more people we can touch in terms of helping their life and their own happiness. And for us, that will be our legacy more than the group and the financial and how much like we'll get from it. For us, that is lower down our pecking order.
I mean, that's really great. You're sort of really leading with culture and fit and values, which is really encouraging, because you know what? Recruitment and staff retention is a really difficult issue within dentistry. I mean, for any business owner really, but in dentistry also, we know it's tough. And so, I think if you lead with culture and fit and values, I think you're on the right path there. And I think you're doing things a little differently, because I think dentistry is becoming more institutionalized, it's becoming more commercialized in ways, it's becoming more sort of, commercially driven. Which has many benefits, don't get me wrong, but also it means sometimes we lose sight of the people that are doing the dentistry, and the values behind that.
And we can't compete on that front, right?
No, sure.
Like you said, that we can't all be having 100,000 followers and all be like that. And for us, this is where we feel our USP will be different. And for us, this is where the DADP was formed, because we have a longer plan and we have a vision outside of dentistry, which I'm sure we can touch upon later. But I think for us that will be more important, and I think that's what we're aiming towards long term, rather than the commercial aspect and feeling like we're a corporate. Yeah,
no, great. So tell us about DADP then, in short, because it's about giving back not just to the dental community through mentoring, coaching, and creating a safe space to kind of share, war stories and learn lessons. But also, you give 50% of the profits back to a worthy cause. So just tell us, what's the thinking behind DADP? Why did you start it? And what's your sort of vision? I think you've done 2 cohorts so far. Is that right?
2 cohorts.
You've got another one coming up in November.
Yes.
So, we hope to get this out before then. If not, visit their website and book in on the next one. But tell us all.
So I got the idea of DADP from my own journey. And we discussed as part of the practice that we wanted to spare our time. If we have time to grow our own personal assets, we also have time to give back as well. And it has to come hand in hand. We don't want to grow without giving more and more to the community. I think there's a psychology behind giving. Like what I believe is that when you give unconditionally to something or someone, it makes you naturally feel whatever you have is enough. So even we feel like we're doing good, but actually from a personal point of view, there's a a significance to it, and it makes you more content. So that's where I was like, look, we're doing all this stuff, but actually we want to stay grounded. We don't want to get too big for our boots. And my journey has been led by the people around me. I had my VT trainers who were great. I had Amit and Amir as my principals. They were great. I never had another job. I've never written a CV in my life. As soon as I bought Heidi, Amit was a great mentor, but also Amit had other projects and other things that kind of occupied his time.
Sure, yeah.
And so I had loads of ideas, but I didn't know how to implement it. So I ended up having a business coach. And this business coach really supported me and helped me kind of map out on paper what my visions were, how to go about it. And actually, he's a partner with us in the DADP.
All right, okay.
Yeah. And he has a very similar ethos to us and wants to give back as well. And so between us three, we actually started bringing other people on board. So we brought our fitness guy on board, we brought a solicitor, bought a dental agent, we bought accountant, kind of marketing, branding. We bought like a whole kind of
our network.
Our network.
The people who have helped us
to
get to where we are.
And more. And then on top of that, we don't just have the day course, but we do one-on-one mentorship calls with them. And what we want to achieve from this is actually we charge a nominal fee for the kind of cohort, but everyone gives up their time to firstly just make sure that they feel supported. So what we want to do is give them a roadmap about where we've gone wrong, what we would do differently so people don't make that same mistakes. And also sometimes actually what we found is not so much about our journey, it's more about discussing their journey and actually giving them confidence that whatever has happened, but wherever we go, we're going as a team.
Yeah.
And we don't get it right all the time. There'll be some advice that we give that actually they're like, I don't think that's for me. I'm going to go down a different route, but we're giving them a platform to work. And we're giving them a lot of information that isn't readily available out there. There's a lot of young dentists that want to buy practices. I'm sure if we finish university and we said, how many of you guys want to buy practices within the next 10 years? I reckon 80 to 90% will probably say, yeah. That's not what happens. They get into a cycle.
Yeah.
And a lot of business owners may say that like, oh, practice ownership is really difficult. It's not for them. We advocate it. We think it's the best thing. The time that gives you the freedom, it's like something you've grown, it is part of your legacy. So we don't want to not help other people do that. We want them to experience what we've done. And so we're happy to tell them which agents we use. Nikhil spends a lot of time discussing prospectuses and has actually gone to viewings with some of our delegates, and that's what we want to achieve is a community, and we learn from them just as much as they learn from us. It's not a one-way street. Like we've got people on there who do things differently to us, and they've given us ideas, and we're like, okay, long term, if we create a group and we all go and do the same thing, that we're like, right, and we're all doing it the right way. There's only so many practices that we may be able to buy, but if the people on our course have a similar philosophy to us, and actually you can imagine the power that will bring, that actually we're going to build a generation of dentists that are solely focused on, not solely, but the primary focus will be on the community and the well-being of their patients and their fellow colleagues. And that for me will bring me a lot of happiness if that's what we can achieve. And that's what we want to create. And then the charity side of things is something a bit different in terms of we're giving 50% of it now to a local charity, but long term we would like to build a hospital or a school in a third world country. That is a goal that we want to do by the end, and who knows how long we'll be in it, but hopefully we'll be around a long time, and by the time we get to the end, that will be, I think, the icing on the cake if we can have that and physically go out and do it with the people within the DADP and our practices to actually spend that time and build something.
That's phenomenal. I mean, just listening to that, you haven't said, oh, look, I'm going to build an academy and I'm going to monetize it, and that's going to give us another revenue stream. You've actually not even mentioned that, really. You mentioned it's a nominal fee. I saw the fee on the website. It is very nominal for the value that people are getting, clearly. So it's amazing because it's completely about the vision. and the wider vision, not just for that cohort, but just for what dentistry should look like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is really, really cool, because that's quite unique, quite rare. And yeah, hats off, gents. Really, really good. I love the take. I love the angle. And you know, you're investing your time, and your peers are investing their time, which is, yeah, really incredible way to have an impact, I think.
Thank you.
I think both of us just feel so grateful for the opportunities we've had growing up, right? And even for example, my granddad, who's in his 90s now, he lives a very simple life, right? I'm sure there's others in a similar position as me, but he's always given his time and money, but more importantly, time, to those who could gain help from him. You know, so he sponsors children in India to get an education, and that's always inspired me. And it's always been something that I wanted to do. And I feel like we both have that same mindset that we want to give back. But also now's the right time, because you can be busy in the rat race. And if you don't make time for that, it's like a non-negotiable for us, just giving back. If you don't consistently do it, you have, like you said, we have practices, you have kids, it's easy to forget. So I think that was very important for both of us. And so when Kish approached me and started discussing the DADP, we were singing from the same hymn sheet, you know. So we both thought, if a course like this was out when we were young associates, we would have snatched at the opportunity. Because for me personally, even though I had mentors, in terms of buying a practice or figuring out where I wanted to go, whether it was the whole super associate route or buying a practice, I was at a crossroad and I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go and how to go about it. And as Kish said, I had loads of failures in terms of looking for a practice for 5 years, getting gazumped by the corporates. The multiples were going up, the costs were going up, cash bars were coming in. So I've experienced that and found it very disheartening, and almost go back to the rat race, and then started to look again, go back to this. So I think just being able to help and guide others who are in a similar predicament. We're not saying that all of the cohort want to buy practices.
Yeah.
Some of them may want to hone in on Invisalign. Even though it's a non-clinical course, we can still guide them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And actually the main thing we want for the dentist to just be happy and have fulfillment, have a really balanced life, and
feel supported. So it's not just for ownership, like Nikhil said. It's aimed at people who are in crossroads, where they don't know what way they're going, and whether that means they know they're an associate, but you know that I think 90% of associates will have felt this at some point, that, oh, why am I not doing this? Or why, like, if they feel alone in the profession, then this is the right place to be. Like, we want to create something where they feel safe.
Yeah.
They feel they've got other people who are in that same position, and we will do everything in our power. And I mean that, to support them in whatever way we can, through contacts, through helping them find jobs, through networking, through whatever way we can, and through our experiences, but make them feel supported and valued. And I think that for us, anyone who's feeling lost, this is what we want to create for them. Yeah,
you're basically creating a space where you're giving people, you know, an equal opportunity to what you had in terms of access to leadership, or being in an environment with great leadership and access to mentorship, which, you know, as you said earlier on in the show, not everyone is in that position where they come out VT and they have a mentor who holds their hand and helps them through their career. So that's, really, really powerful. What does success look like for you for DADP? If let's say we fast forward 5 years from now, what would be success for you in terms of the impact you're making?
I think it will be some stories. You know, we have some of the delegates who come on who feel really lost. They have no idea. They're good clinicians. They, on paper, you would think, what are you stuck at? You're doing really well. You're investing in yourself, but they internally feel very stuck and they feel stationary. And this is what the first thing we talk about is the purpose, what drives you, what is your why. And that's where also Mark plays a massive influence, because a lot of courses these days are very clinically based.
Yeah, of course.
And so a lot of this, and Mark is not a dentist, so he sees things through a different lens to Kish and I. And even he's obviously Kish's mentor. He helps me with any dilemmas I may have, and he helps the cohort massively, you know, with the just general life coaching. And so I think for me, and I'm sure Kish will agree, is seeing some of these associates just excel in whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be clinically, but just in their family life, at work, just make sure that they're happy. And then long term is giving more and more of our percentages to the charities. So at the moment it's the Educational Endowment Foundation, and that's basically helping children from lower socioeconomic backgrounds to get an education. And long term, that's in the UK. Long term, we want to, as Kish said, build schools in countries where they need it. So that would be amazing in 5 years if we built a school.
That'd be epic.
With our community.
Yeah,
that would be cherry on top.
Yeah. Well, then we'll have to get you back in. And you know what? We'll have to shoot an episode in wherever you've built the school.
100%.
We'll bring the set to the school and we'll look back. So for any associate, this is going to resonate with lots of people, associates, practice owners, aspiring practice owners. Where do they find out more? How can they reach out? How can they learn more about the program, the cohorts you have, and how to get involved?
So they can reach out on Instagram. We both have our Instagrams.
DADP has it.
And the DAD has its own Instagram, as well as a kind of website, which kind of tells you a little bit more about each speaker. But for us, we don't want to market it into a point where we're like, right, we're going to have like this flamboyant course and stuff. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be very much organic.
Yep.
That like if you're listening to this or if you hear about us and it resonates with you, we're here to help. And I think that's what we want people to do is they reach out to us personally. We will call you. We'll spend time with you. Some of the people we've actually met up with and actually sat with them before they even sign up. I know that there's a few people who've messaged me and they're not in the right kind of time frame in terms of coming on the course. But what we're doing is we're supporting them anyway.
Yeah. So
it doesn't have to be exactly through the kind of coming on the course. That for us will give you access to everything. But we're here to help. Anyone who's listening to this wants to reach out. They want to talk about Invisalign. They want to talk about implants. Regardless of the course, we're here to help.
That's great. No, really good. And I guess by going about it in an organic way, you're also finding people that are a value fit for the ecosystem, definitely. And you're kind of protecting the integrity of it that way.
We never wanted to sort of market it and pay for the marketing and things. It's all about, from the first cohort to this one, it's all been word of mouth. And that's what it's all about for us. And actually, one of the other things we wanted to gain from the course and what we love is just meeting new people.
Yep.
And so recently we did a social with the first two cohorts and some of the third cohort, and it was so much fun. We're in a bar in London, everyone was talking, just had a DJ. And so part of it is just to make our life more fun and make everyone's life just socialize.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because without that,
that's
why are we doing it, right? What's
exactly.
the point?
Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. One of the last segments we usually do is the patient confessional. So we talk about, some of the wild, crazy stories that, happen behind closed doors. So what is, if you've got a story, what's the kind of wildest, craziest thing that's ever happened to you in a practice or at the hospital or with a patient or whatever, that's just downright wacky or silly or wild? Obviously names omitted for those involved.
I had one good story, and that was a year after Max Vax. I was working as my first associate job in a mixed practice where I still work actually as an associate. And it was like just after lunch, and I saw I was double booked, and I was thinking, I've got this emergency come in. And this chap had strolled in. He'd just come off the train from Birmingham, and he was absolutely off his face, like he was completely drunk. And unfortunately, he must have, we don't know the full story because he was completely intoxicated, but he basically said that he had fallen and he had fractured his jaw and he was in pain. So I saw him, he was like stumbling down the corridor to my room. I'm smiling because there's a good ending, don't worry.
Yeah.
I saw him, assessed him. He was completely drunk, so we had to have like a few members of staff with us. But he was not aggressive at all. And I noticed, we took x-rays, etc., and he had a few jaw fractures. So the first thing we did was obviously called A&E, called the ambulance, said, look, this chap, he's drunk, he's fallen, he's got mandibular fracture, multiple fractures, he needs to be assessed, right? So he waits in the waiting room, his pulse was fine, he was breathing okay. So A&E were busy at the time, the ambulance service were busy. So an hour goes, I'm now running behind.
Oh yeah, of course,
he wasn't even talking to me, he was just blabbering. And so it took a while to do my assessment. An hour goes by, ambulance still haven't come. We're calling them saying, how long is it going to be? 2 hours go by, 3 hours go by. Now it's like 5 o'clock and the ambulance service are telling us that they're so busy, they're calling. I didn't even know they did this, but they're going to call an Uber for the patient.
As you do.
Yeah, this is crazy. Like genuinely. So this is out of hours now. So the manager, bless her, stayed, and another dentist stayed with me, and we were making sure the patient was okay. And then the patient says to us, it's now about 6 o'clock. The Uber's on its way. And the patient says, I'm just going to go out for a cigarette. We're like, okay, just wait right outside though. And we didn't want to follow him outside, and obviously the Uber comes, we open the door, and he's gone, right?
It's disappeared.
Yeah, disappeared. So we've now been on the phone to A&E for like 4 hours.
Oh my God.
We're worried about the patient.
Yeah,
we don't know where he is. He's our responsibility. We want to make sure he's taken care of. And so we thought, obviously, the first thing to check is the local pub, right? So we could take a left. He's not at the bus stop having a fag.
Oh no.
Turn left, go to the first pub. I'm still in my scrub, so everyone's just looking at me.
What's
like,
going on?
This guy? Not there. We end up having to do a pub crawl around Barnet. And we found him after about 20 minutes at one of the pubs down the road with like a pint in his hand and a fag. And we're just like, mate, we need to get you back and so we had to
get you to A&E.
walk him back to A&E. But yeah, that was a funny. We still laugh about it.
Yeah,
because it was just hilarious because we're trying to take care of this guy and he decides to just go on a pub crawl around Barnet. Well, yeah, we're on a wild goose chase.
After juggling your diary for the entire day and just like
yeah.
having him nap in your dental chair, like
that's
it
was funny, but yeah, he got sorted and it was all fine.
Wild
Got him in the
story.
cab.
Yeah, that is a pretty wild
That's
story.
crazy, yeah.
I don't think I'm going to live up to that now.
I'm sure you've got one.
Mine is probably during my VT, where I was fitting one of my first crowns and the patient accidentally swallowed it.
Oh no.
And I was actually, I was actually flying that day to go on holiday. And so basically, and none of my VT trainers were there that day. And I was I think there was only a couple of dentists, but there was no one else that I could actually turn to. So I'm there with this patient, having a crown, having swallowed their crown, having no idea what to do. I then basically say to the patient, don't worry, I will call you later. Let me just figure out what we're doing. I was like, you might need to go to A&E. And she's like, what have you just done? And I was like, don't worry, these things can happen occasionally. And I thought, oh my God.
You're just winging it.
Yeah, absolutely winging it. I then go straight to the airport and I called my VT. I called my VT trainer and I was like, you won't believe just what's happened. Like, I don't think dentistry is for me. This is at the phase where I'm like, I'm not sure about dentistry anymore. And he's like, yeah, Kish, don't worry. These things happen. Like, I can tell you so many, like, the way my VT trainer, Nimesh Paras at the time, they always used to tell me their horror stories whenever I told them mine, which kind of like calmed me down a little bit. But I was like, look, Nimesh, I'm not sure this is the right profession for me. Like,
was that at New Road?
This was at New Road.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I know the guys, yeah.
So, I like the priority though. He's still on the way to the airport.
I was like,
I need to board.
Exactly,
do they need to go for a chest X-ray? Can you do that?
Yeah.
And then he was like, okay, can you call the patient back and say, if you're struggling to breathe and you're coughing, then they might need to go to A&E. And then I was like, no, they weren't. Like, as in, we were fine. We stayed for like an hour or two. The patient was absolutely fine. And he was like, right, so the other option is that they have to look in their stool to check for the crown. So I was like, no, you're joking, right? Like, I thought you
just make a new one.
Yeah. I was like, surely we're just going to... He was like, yeah, but you have to tell them that they can look. And so then there's me at the airport calling this patient and saying,
have to look in your
I really apologize for earlier, but do you mind doing me a favor and just so we know that you're safe? We'll obviously make a new crown.
All right, so it's not for reusing it. It's not for re-cementing it. Okay, fine,
So I was like, we'll make you a new crown, but just check so we know that you're safe.
Yeah.
And she was like, this is crazy. And I was like, it's so embarrassed, like I'm shaking there. Like,
Meanwhile, boarding flight to
flight. Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's so funny.
VT is daunting though, isn't it?
It's crazy.
I felt the same as you. You just feel so out of your depth.
100%.
There's not,
And this is why Invisalign is the way I've chosen.
Yeah, they can't swallow the alignment.
It's hard to swallow.
And I've stopped.
You'll know because they're choking on it.
No more general dentistry for me.
So did she confirm that she indeed wasn't that is still not in her system?
She didn't find it, but she went for an X-ray and she's absolutely fine. And,
Fine. Okay.
And there's a happy ending after all.
And you learn, right?
Yeah,
That's the main thing.
Yeah.
That's a great story. So the final question, which we always ask, is the patient always right?
I think the patient's always listened to. I don't know.
Yes, in a way. Ultimately, the patient is right. That's why we're here, right? That's why we love our job. And for us, the validation from the patient is the pinnacle of our career. So for us, the patient is right. And for us, we thrive on their validation.
Some patients just like to be difficult. And so what I do is I'm overly friendly with those patients, so that it's easier to deal with it.
You diffuse them with kindness.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. Exactly. I like that.
Well, guys, it's been such a pleasure. Honestly, I've really, really enjoyed that. I think we've gone on for an hour and a half. So time has flown. I've really enjoyed the stories and, everything you're up to, your vision, your values. Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's going to be massively valuable to those who are listening, who are a few steps behind you and who just need someone to show them the way. So thanks again for your time and being generous with your time and your knowledge, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Love hearing the real stories behind the aesthetics, medical and dental industries? Make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Patient Is Always Right for exclusive content. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to watch the full episodes on YouTube. Hit follow, subscribe, and stay tuned.